Hey, onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out this week's episode of the One Man Podcast. It's always free and available on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and many more, as well as on the web at onemanpodcast.com. So please, whatever platform you're listening on, like and subscribe. While you're at it, give it a rating, leave a review. Why? Because it helps the podcast, and I'd really appreciate it. How about that? What about social media? Search One Man Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to keep up with what's going on there. Get a little extra content for yourself. And finally, to get in touch, please send your emails to contact@onemanpodcast.com. You send it, I read it on the podcast. That's the deal. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode.
Hi, this is Rick Mercer. You're listening to the One Man Podcast.
Yeah!
Hey, it's Josh Williams here, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 110 for Wednesday, June 19th, 2019. How's it going, onesies? How are you guys doing today? Yeah, you did not mishear me. It is episode 110. Some of you might be thinking, hey, Josh, on the website here and on my iTunes, I only got episode 108 before this. Shouldn't this be episode 109? And why did you miss a week? I didn't, guys. There was an episode 109. 109 was there for a few hours, and then I took it down. And in a completely unrelated note, I'm also no longer at the airline that I was working for. Yeah, surprisingly, those two things happened within an hour of each other, completely unrelated. And that's all I kind of have to say about that. You guys know I love you very much, and I never lied to you. That has not changed. And as much as I'd like to talk about kind of everything, I took the episode down out of fear, but I have left it down just out of respect. You guys know that when I'm talking on the podcast, I never mean any harm. This podcast is also a comedy podcast. It's me talking about my week, the things that are going on in my life and my perceptions of them. This is certainly not a State of the Union address. It's not an editorial. I'm not a journalist. This isn't, CBC's, I wouldn't even know. It's not the Fifth Estate or anything like that. Marketplace. That's not what this podcast is. This is me talking about what's going on in my life, my ups, my downs, and yeah, I will give them to you as best as I can in a comedic state. Sometimes things are so down, not a lot of comedy sauce on them, but at the end of the day, this is my interpretation of what's going on in my life and what is up with me, and I will continue to tell them to you guys the way it is. I'd love to say more. But honestly, this is me being as respectful as I can be. And, every now and again, someone's going to hear my podcast. They're going to hear something. They're going to take something out of context. And today's, canceled culture is what they call it. People hear something and they're like, end it, get it out of here. Get it out of here. I don't know if I've ever talked about, there's so many great people. Luckily, some of the greats have actually been vindicated and saved, but I love James Gunn. James Gunn is a great writer-director. He's the guy responsible for the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies. James Gunn had tweeted a bunch of stupid racist jokes 10 years ago. Again, these are not facts coming out of my mouth. These are just the, you can Google it and see whatever. So if you want to find the exact year, James Gunn had Googled some they were just terrible. You could tell they were intended to be jokes. It's funny. Prior to Trump being president, you could tell that these would be jokes. Now the president says more horrible things, and you're like, fuck, this guy means them. But you could tell, at least from somebody in the industry, comedic standpoint, that James Gunn didn't really, he was going for shock value and things like that. This is not a guy who's going I think I'm going to say something incredibly prejudiced, and everyone will believe that I mean it at face value and whatnot. But anyways, James Gunn got shit canned. Disney was like, oh, this is going to look bad. We got to get rid of this guy. And they did. Luckily, after an entire, I think it was almost close to a year after the events, the cast had been, and beside him, they'd all collectively written a letter to Disney saying, James is probably one of the best guys we've ever worked with. He's an incredibly kind person, blah, 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 blah. A lot of them had even threatened to walk on upcoming films if they didn't reinstate James for the role of director. So luckily, James Gunn has been reinstated. And it's funny too. It's as soon as they fired James, DC. What the fuck? Sorry guys, I'm driving. I'm a pinnacle of safety. The on-ramp to the Queensway is blocked bumper to bumper here. Of course, I'm recording on Tuesday as always. Like to have it ready for you guys, nice and punctual, first thing Wednesday morning. But yeah, James Gunn, when he got fired, DC jumped on him right away to work on the next Suicide Squad movie because they saw the talent there. They're like, oh, this guy? No, yeah, we'll take him. You don't want him for some jokes? We'll take him. And speaking of which, the BA companies that I work for that have come to see me perform stand-up and everything like that, I reached out to them and said, hey, my month is open now. And they were like, thank God. And then I have just filled my calendar with a ton of stuff. So all I have to say, guys, I want to thank some of you who, very few of you, there was very few downloads, prior to the episode being removed last week. But I do want to thank those of you that reached out to me and that understood that I was talking a lot about anxiety last week. Quite a few people were like, hey man, sorry to hear that you're struggling with anxiety. And I know what it's like. My good friend Matthew out in Halifax, thanks for reaching out, dude. And Matt got exactly what I was, Matt got my intention. So here's the thing, guys. I don't want this one to be a long one. I'm in traffic now. It's bumper to bumper. Using my little handheld recorder or whatever. So I kind of just, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about that I just don't feel able to at the moment. But again, I also wanted to come across clear as a bell. There's no ill will or whatever. Like, it's a really fucked up time, especially for comics. This is not something that I'm unaware of. Is in today's canceled culture, it's very difficult to say anything without like, oh God, how is this going to be received? So I haven't compromised with this podcast before, and to be honest with you, I'm really not looking forward to it because I'm compromising my own ethics. But again, I'm doing it out of respect and to show, no malice, no ill will. I get where everybody is these days. You know what I mean? So what was I going to say? I feel like I had a point and then my brain went all over the place. Big thanks to the people who reached out to say, hey man, understand from what you're saying, there's a lot of anxiety and shit like that. So thank you. Nova Scotia, you guys are still killing it. My biggest area for downloads currently as well. I want to thank Oregon. Oregon's got some downloads coming, so thank you for my onesies listening there. You guys are all fantastic. It's funny too, like again, getting to the anxiety thing. There was someone who was very kind with me this week, who asked me a few questions and gave me a few things about anxiety. It's funny because I didn't know this person, but I was mentioning anxiety, and they were like, do you? I can't. This is the one part of the conversation that I do feel is hazy. Is I think they were like, do you actually have anxiety or something like that? It felt in that vein, especially since I was saying that like there's a lot of people that say they have conditions that may or may not understand them. It's almost, oh God, geez. Do I really want to start tap dancing on fragile shit already? I think that when it comes to mental illness, there's that same sort of, I don't want to say stigma, but let's say poor reaction that like, when it comes to someone who, says that they were sexually assaulted for so long, it was like when people say that, there was this like, you don't believe them. And obviously that's horrible. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities with mental illness. I think that we're getting to a place where we're starting to talk about it. In fact, if anything, I think that people are showing more, I don't want to say compassion, because there's still a lot of people who just don't. In certain fields, office fields, the high-level HR fields, people are very supportive of accessibility and mental illness and conditions, absolutely. But there's lots of other areas where you go to work in a place where they're like, I don't give a fuck what you have. Oh yeah, you got this? I don't think we should. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever it is. But I just think that like, it's tough to admit it. There's like a weakness almost, at least from a male standpoint, from the ones I've spoken to, is like, I know for myself, I was in very big denial about having any kind of anxiety or neuroses or any kind of mental illness, because I'm like, that just basically means I'm broken, right? Like I can figure shit out. I can get through tasks and things, but I struggle with them if I'm feeling anxious, and it's really fucked up. So this person, just asked me like, hey, do you have anything? I think pretty damn sure I do. I go, I've had it for a very long time. I think he asked me how long have I had it. But I was saying like I've a long time, but I've only been accepting of it in the last while. Again, one of the reasons the podcast helps is that I kind of express where I'm at with shit with you guys. Not this is funny yet, by the way. Still comedic podcast. But the person was saying to me is like, this person had said that they have anxiety too. They didn't say I suffer from it or anything like that. They just said I have anxiety. So I asked them, because they seem to be kind of comfortable with theirs. I just said, what have you done to, help you with yours? And and they were quiet. And I was like, I'm sorry if that's a personal question. Like, you guys know me, I'm an open book. I will tell you what I think and what's on my mind. I would rather embarrass myself with a story than be dishonest with you. The person was like, well, it is personal, but they had said, like anxiety is the kind of thing that affects 7 out of 10 people, and it's very hard and it's a growing number. So a lot of people have some form of anxiety, whatever, or mental illness they're not even aware of, right? You just go, I'm stressed, I'm this, I'm that, and your brain starts processing shit in weird ways, and it's interesting. It's almost like one of those things, like, that old saying, the first step in solving a problem is recognizing that there is one. And I think for a lot of people, who might be quote unquote stressed or whatever it is, you may have something else that you're unaware of, and that you just, sometimes you look at something like, I don't have anxiety, because anxiety is like, oh, you're scared of nothing. It's like, yes and no. It's more that you approach a problem and, you become a catastrophist immediately. What's the worst thing that can happen? In dealing with this particular situation that I'm sort of tiptoeing around in this podcast is like, yeah, it's like, what's going to happen? With no malice or hatred or anything in my heart, it's like, how can what I'm saying be taken and used against me in a malicious fashion? That's the thing, right? It's like everyone's afraid of being hurt, so they go out and they hurt other people. It's kind of fucked up. Anyways, what I'm getting at is this person was kind enough to me to sort of open up and share with me that it's like, they asked me if I was afraid of my anxiety, to which I replied, absolutely. I'm afraid of a lot of situations, because as soon as I start to look at the situation, I will immediately, if something's bothering me, like I just got my taxes done. Big win for this guy right here, by the way. You guys know how much I hate taxes and how much it takes me forever. I got my taxes done today. Man, do I ever feel good. And in true Josh fashion, I'm only like 2 months late getting my taxes done. But that stuff stresses me out, because it's like, fuck, what if I didn't report something properly? And I don't mean that like in any kind of negative. It's just like, I have expenses, like, oops, what if I should have claimed something that I didn't claim that would have saved me, a couple $100 or whatever it is. Like, at the end of the day, it's hard to even look at certain things, because you just panic and worry and neuroses and then you got those wonderful people who come up to you and go like, just relax. Don't worry about it. Like, oh my God, you've been walking around with the cure for anxiety and neuroses all this time. And then you just sprinkle a little bit of it on me like chicken feed, and it's going to go away. Oh, I never considered not thinking about it. I never considered don't worry. And wow, did I ever not consider relax, because all of those things are things I would love. I listened to, I have so much. I thought this was going to be a short podcast, but I think I got lots to say. A lot of it I want to talk about. I think I want to give you guys a proper episode with the right mic and not in traffic, whatever. Thank God it's bumper to bumper, because I'm in no danger on the highway right now with everything barely moving. But it's, Jesus Christ, I keep losing my train of thought here. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, first one I ever listened to in its entirety. And he was talking with Naval, something or other, and I may have mentioned this or I may not have, I really can't remember. But this guy was talking about what we're looking for is not peace of mind, but peace from mind. right? We're always thinking things, and a lot of us think that we're going to solve our problems by, manipulating external things like having enough money and rent and food and shelter and all that stuff. But really, it's internal stuff in your mind that can cause panic and worry and concern or whatever. So I definitely say that I can relate with that conversation and say that peace from mind would be absolutely wonderful. But anyways, at the end of the day, very anxious man, looking for things. And this person was also, like I said, kind enough to ask me if I was afraid of my anxiety. I said yes. And then they sort of suggested that, well, that's part of the problem, is that if you accept your anxiety, you don't become afraid of it, and you just learn to deal with it. And then they recommended a book. So I haven't read the book. I did purchase it. But I'll share it with you guys. It's called Anxiety No More. The person who recommended it to me seemed very confident and comfortable. And that's the thing with anxiety. A lot of people with anxiety, Joey Elias is a great friend of mine from, veteran of the Just for Laughs Festival. He was on CJAD for the longest time. And Joey Elias, he suffers from anxiety. He's very vocal about it. And he says this. And here's the thing. Joey's the kind of guy that if you cross him, he'll go on the radio and he'll tell you off. But even Joey has said numerous occasions, he suffers from anxiety. He goes, it's a terrible thing. I wish it on no one. Because, and I love that guy. That guy's been fucking wonderful to me. In fact, Joey and I are doing, speaking of my upcoming dates, Joey and I are doing a show for a foundation in, I think September. We're doing a foundation. So I'm looking forward to that. I always like helping. It's for, I believe, a women's shelter. Anyways, all I'm saying is that the book Anxiety No More was suggested to me by someone who seemed very compassionate and understanding, someone who's dealt with anxiety themselves. So thank you, Jason, for your recommendation. I do appreciate that. That was very kind of you. Not Jason Lawrence, my roommate, just a different Jason. But I don't. You guys know me, unless it's a fan of the podcast permission. I don't mention last names, but I do want to say thank you. And hopefully, not only will that help me when I get a chance to listen to it, but excuse me, help any of you who may also be like, Josh, you fucking lunatic, you haven't solved it yet. Help. I'm just sharing with you guys works. Happiness Equation is a great book that I read recently that I definitely recommend to everybody. But yeah, now maybe Anxiety No More would be another one that's spectacular for everybody out there. So, but yeah, I want to, next week, I'm going to be back with the regular mic. Lots of fun. All right. Happy-go-lucky, everybody. Comedy podcast. My life is silly. Stupid things happen to me. I will tell them to you in a very humorous and comedic way. Nothing but love to everybody in all facets. No hard feelings to anything. Just it looks like it'll be different stories coming at you guys over the next few weeks is all. So, as always, feel free to send me in your emails. You guys send it in. I read it on the podcast. Yeah, as far as 109 is concerned, those of you that had a chance to hear it, cool. Those of you that didn't, sorry, but for the foreseeable future, it's staying down. But I just want to say that my record is not tarnished. I still have had an episode for you guys every single week on time. But just in true kind of Josh form, my intention is never malice. I never mean to hurt or upset with the things that I'm saying. But it seems like, every now and again it happens. So if that's what 109 did for some people, then 109 can stay down. It's not worth it for me and my musings to cause anyone harm. So, anyways, listen, I hope you guys have a great week. I'm going to Bed Bath & Beyond to buy a vegetable steamer because I'm all man, baby. There's probably more shit I have to say, but since I'm kind of all over the map and now traffic's getting a little wacky, I choose life. So I'm gonna put this podcast in at the ripe old minutes of how many have I done here? Is it even recording still? Wow, 17 minutes, guys. Listen, sorry for all the short episodes lately. 109 was like an hour and a half for what it's worth. I did put effort into it, but it is what it is. So you guys have a great day. Let me know what's going on with you. I'm going to Bed Bath, get some vegetable steamer, just one. Did you guys know that there's actually a brand? Let's go a little silly for 2 seconds here. Do you guys know that there's actually a brand of industrial steamer, like industrial kitchen steamer, and they're called Cleveland? So there's actually Cleveland steamers is a real thing. But yeah, I'm going there. I need to get I've been doing a lot of barbecuing. Crystal and I did some barbecuing this week. I did a lot of fun shit. I just don't want to mix too much shit together. I'm getting this one out of the way. nice and short. But yeah, Crystal and I did some barbecuing. I did some barbecuing at home. I want one of those silicone sort of knobby cut type like barbecue basting brushes. I got 2 at home. One of them is plastic bristles. And the other one's like horse pube, whatever. It's like old and brown and yeah, it's awful. But the idea is those ones suck so much for cleaning because you get like pulling vegetable oil and olive oil out of the bristles. Trying to clean that shit out, it takes forever, and you can't ever get it all out. Then I feel like I'm using like old grease when I use it again. So I'm going to get me a nice vegetable barbecue baster, vegetable steamer, and what else? I think that's it. I'm going to Bed Bath using their wonderful 20% off coupon. Bed Bath & Beyond, not a sponsor of the podcast, but definitely a wonderful place for all your home and whatever needs. Quick shout out to my partners this week. No reviews or reads for any of them. It's just a quick one, guys. PortablePress.com, of course, Uncle John's Bathroom Readers. Check them out, PortablePress.com, and see what kind of fun stuff they have. Always great trivia, brain food for you. What else? AbsoluteComedy.ca, guys. I have dates, Absolute Comedy in Toronto, 2 weeks in August. I will be there with Paul Verzi in November in Ottawa. So mid-November, myself and Paul Verzi with the #1 Comedy Central streaming special on their streaming services. Not to mention the guy who opens regularly for Bill Burr and a good buddy of mine. And Paul's going to be in a movie. Ooh, I don't really think... He told me, but people are talking about it a little bit, but I can't really say much. Super happy for that guy. You guys need to come see him and his new hour in November with yours truly hosting at Ottawa's Absolute Comedy. And then I'll have some more dates and shit coming up on the calendar that I'll share with you guys soon. Is that it? Oh, DK, right? My partners at Dorling Kindersley, DK Books, right? Go to dk.com/ca, or I think it's DK Books. Fuck, I can't remember. Yeah, it's DK. I'm looking forward to the next review for them. I started one of their books again, not as much as last month. I've been doing a lot of things in preparation for the training. So I haven't had a ton of time to read anything besides that. But now that that's freed up, I will be able to start reading again and telling you guys how much I love the DK books on my shelf. So I think I'm actually saying goodbye this time. I feel like I'm in a new relationship with you guys. No, you hang up. Hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week. I look forward to chatting with you. I'm going to have some fun topics. I was going to put them all in this one, but I'll talk to you guys about the next week when we can do it properly, and I can put a few more. I actually put down notes. No more telling you about the boring ass shit that I did. All right, just fun ass stuff. Ooh, I'll remember to tell you guys about that. I got an interesting story for you next week. In the meantime, you guys have a great week. Don't work too hard, and I'll chat with you soon.